Most people are running, not physically, internally, from the conversations they have been putting off, from the decisions they know they need to take, from the version of their life that does not feel quite right, from the quiet voice underneath all those noise and chaos that keeps trying you to say something they are not ready to hear. And the running looks completely normal from the outside. It looks like being busy, it looks like being social, it looks like staying informed, staying entertained, staying productive. It looks in almost every case like a person who has their life together and is in control. But there is a difference between a full life and a life used to avoid emptiness, between genuine engagement and distraction that never quite satisfies. Most people know the difference, they feel it, usually late at night or in the quiet between things, when the noise briefly stops and something uncomfortable surfaces before they reach for their phone. That's the moment they know it, but they don't act upon it. This video is about that something, what it is, why we run from it, and what actually happens when you stop. The philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote something in the 1600s that is more relevant today than almost anything written last week. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He wrote this before smartphones, before the internet, before social media, before the 24-hour news channel cycle and the infinite scroll and the notifications that arrives every 11 minutes. He wrote this when the primary available distraction was going to a party or picking up a book, and he still identified it as the root cause of most human suffering, the inability to be alone with yourself. Why is that so hard? Because when you are quiet and alone, what surfaces is unprocessed material of your life. The things you said yes to, that you meant to say no to, the relationship that is no longer working, the career that pays well but feels hollow, the version of yourself that you have drifted from without quietly noticing it. These things do not go away because you are busy. They wait, you avoid, and they surface the moment the noise stops. The stimulation you provide to avoidance stops. That's when it resurfaces. So most people keep the noise going, not because they are shallow or unaware, but because facing that material of genuine uncomfort uh, scares them. They do not want to face it. And discomfort triggers a very old, very powerful part of the brain that says, avoid this. Find something easier. Find something that feels better right now in this moment. And we give in. The tragedy is that running costs more than stopping would. Every year spent avoiding the uncomfortable thing is a year not spent resolving it. The material does not shrink with avoidance, it compounds. The longer you run, the heavier the thing you are running from becomes. The running takes many forms, and most of them look nothing like running. The most common is busyness, filling the calendar to completely inform your mind that you're busy, that there is no space between things, no moment of stillness where the uncomfortable question could surface or resurface. People wear their busyness like a badge for, but for many, it is actually very sophisticated avoidance strategy. If I am always doing something, I never have to sit with myself. Then there is constant consumption, the phone that gets picked up every spare moment, the podcast that plays during every commute, the show that runs every evening. None of these things are wrong in themselves, but when they are used compulsively, when the moment the noise stops you immediately, create more noise, that is running. There is also what we might call social running, filling your time with other people so completely that you are never alone long enough to hear yourself. You constantly just keep listening to people's opinion and what they have to say about a situation or an aspect. Again, relationships and connection are genuinely important. I'm not against it. They are the core of being human and they should flourish. But there is a difference between choosing to be with people and using people as a buffer against yourself. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, had a concept for the parts of ourselves we hide from. He called it the shadow, the aspects of our personality, our desires, our fears that we deem unacceptable and push down into the unconscious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the cost of running. The things you avoid do not disappear, they go underground, and from underground, they shape your decisions, your reactions, your patterns without your conscious awareness. You think you're choosing freely, but the unexamined thought that material is choosing for you. Running does not eliminate what you are running from, it just moves it out of sight. What you find when you stop. Here is what most people expect to find when they stop running something terrible. Avoid an overwhelming wave of everything they have been avoiding, confirmation of their worst fears about themselves. This is why running continues. The imagined contents of that quiet space feel unbearable. But here is what people actually find consistently when they stop long enough to look. They find that it is manageable. More than manageable, the material or the thought that felt catastrophic when avoided, somehow, when faced directly, when brought into the light consistently, not letting it slip through every single time, consistently facing it, is almost always smaller than the fear of it. Not painless, not always comfortable, but survivable, and often surprisingly clarifying. The psychologist Tara Brach writes about this through the lens of what she calls RAIN, a practice of recognizing, allowing, investigating, and nurturing. Whatever difficult emotion or experience is present, the premise is that our suffering is not caused by the difficult thing itself, it is caused by our resistance to solve it. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. When you stop running and simply allow yourself to face what is there without immediately trying to fix it or escape it or explain it away, to go let it go away, something unexpected often happens. The thing that felt overwhelming loses some of its charge on you, hold upon you, not because it disappears, but because you are no longer adding the energy of avoidance to it. Beyond the difficult material and thoughts, there is something else you find when you stop, something most people have not heard in years: their own voice. Not the voice that you hear when you talk, your inner voice, their actual preferences, the things they genuinely care about. Underneath those layers of obligation and constant performance for people and other people's expectation, you find that voice, that inner beautiful voice. When you strip back the noise and the running, what remains is just you, the real you. And most people, when they actually meet themselves in that quiet, find someone worth really, really knowing. Rumi wrote about this 800 years ago with a directness that has never been improved upon. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That field beyond the self judgment, the avoidance, the noise is where you actually live. Getting there requires stopping, and stopping requires courage, but far less courage than you think. So, how do you actually stop? Here are four starting points, each of them small enough to begin today. Number one, create one daily moment of deliberate silence. Not meditation, not yet. Not if that feels like too much for you. Just 5 minutes when you do nothing and reach for nothing. No phone, no podcast, no task. Sit with a cup of tea, stare out of a window, walk without earphones. 5 minutes of nothingness is a starting point that almost anyone can find. I do it right after I wake up and before I sleep. I just sit still. That is it. No phones, nothing, just still. The point is not what happens in those 5 minutes. The point is that you practice not running. You consciously build that time just for stillness. That you build the capacity to be present with yourself for a small amount of time and discover that you can. And that is so empowering. Try it once. Number two, write one honest sentence each day. Not journaling in the elaborate sense, just one honest sentence about how you actually feel. Not how you're supposed to feel, how you actually feel. Not how you would describe your day to a colleague. No, the true sentence. What is actually happening inside you in that moment? Be honest and just write that one sentence carefully. James Penbaker, a psychologist at the University of Texas, spent decades studying the effects of expressive writing. His research found that writing honestly about difficult experiences measurably reduces stress, improves the immune function, and helps people process what they have been avoiding. One sentence, one honest sentence a day, that that is actually enough to begin with. Number three, resist the first reach. The moment you want to reach for the phone, turn on the TV, or fill the silence, or do something which you're not supposed to do and are trying to avoid from something, pause. Just for 10 seconds to begin with, move to 30 seconds of pause as you progress. Sit with whatever prompted the urge. What were you feeling just before you wanted the distraction? Name it. You do not need to fix it, just name it. That pause, that 10 to 30 seconds of resistance is the entire practice in motion, in a miniature condensed form. You are choosing briefly to face rather than flee, to avoid. And each time you do it, the capacity grows. You become more efficient in these pauses when it is required. You are building the muscle of being present with yourself. It starts with 10 seconds to 30 seconds. Try to do this. It's absolutely phenomenal practice. Number four, ask question you have been avoiding. Most people know what the question is. They have been circling it for months or years. It might be, is this the right relationship? Is this the work I actually want to be doing? Am I living a life I have opted for, I have chosen for? Am I living a chosen life or the one that happened to me? You do not need to answer it today. You just need to ask, write it today, and speak it out loud in an empty room. Allow it to exist as a real question rather than a vague discomfort you keep suppressing and have been suppressing for years, months. Because the question that lives unasked does far more damage than the answer, however difficult, would ever do. You are not running because you are weak. You are running because you are human. Because avoidance is the path of least resistance, and the brain is wired to prefer it. But you're also watching this video, which means some part of you is ready to stop. Some part of you already knows that running is costing more than the stopping would. That part of you is absolutely right. What you will find when you stop is not what you fear. It is not a void. It is not confirmation of your worst thoughts about yourself. What you will find is a person who has been trying to get your attention for a very long time. A person with more clarity, more genuine performances, preferences towards life, more quiet wisdom than you have given them credit for. That person is you, and they have been waiting. Start with 5 minutes of silence, one honest sentence, 30 seconds of resistance before the reach, one question written down. You do not have to change everything. You just have to stop running long enough to hear yourself. That is the whole beginning. Subscribe if this gave you something valuable. My name is Abhishek. This is Incubate Growth. See you in the next week. Thank you.